Right, good evening. Today we are moving on with the next portion of business analysis course. We had done in the last lecture, we completed 3.3 topic, and that was stakeholder analysis. Conduct and refine the stakeholder analysis. Now we are ready. Once we have done the stakeholder analysis, we have done the business analysis planning. Now is the time when we get into the creation of the business analysis plan. That is a hardcore plan for the business analysis. How we are going to collect the information, how you are going to elicit, when you are going to do it, what is your schedule for doing all those things. So here we will be creating that plan, and we will be first discussing in it the difference between the business analysis plan and requirement management plan. Then we will be talking about what to include in the business analysis plan. Then understand the project context, which is extremely important. We already have talked a little bit about it here and there. And ultimately, we will land up in ensuring the team is trained in the project life cycle and leverage past experiences with planning. So with this, we would ultimately be able to create a complete plan for elicitation, for analysis, and defining the requirements prioritization process, traceability approach, communication approach, and decision making process. So this whole complete thing would terminate with a solution evaluation process. So this is a huge set of processes we have to go through in the business analysis plan. So business analysis plan is created to document how the business analysis process will be performed, including the plan decisions agreed to by the project team. Plan can be constructed formally and be reviewed and approved by the project team, or the document can be more informal. Like any other plan, like we do in the project management, we do in the business analysis. This all depends upon the type of work we are getting into, that we want to keep it formal or informal. And that also depends upon how big, huge or complex this project is. If project is simple, if the business analysis, subject of the business analysis is very simple and we don't need to go very formal, we can create a very informal kind of a plan. But if it is there is some complexity, then probably we will have to go for the formal plan. Much value is obtained when building the plan as a team and in collaboration with the stakeholders involved in the business analysis activities. And why do we say that? We already know and understand that this is not an autocracy. The business analyst or the project manager are not the only people who have to develop all these plans. They have to do that in collaboration with their project team and the stakeholders. Why? Because when you involve your team members and your stakeholders in the planning work, they have a buy-in with the work you are doing. They will feel themselves part of the plan, and they will defend the plan. If you do it alone and impose it on them, then in that they will be always critical about it, that they have not been asked, they have not been involved in it. So that is exactly what we want to do. We want to get them involved right from the outset. And this is not only to get their buy-in, but also their input. Because you do not know everything about everything. These are the people who are actually going to be involved in those activities, or who has any stakes in those activities. So naturally, their input will be instrumental, and they will help you a lot in developing a very concise and comprehensive plan. Plan templates may exist in the organization, and if they are available, business analysts can leverage them, can use them as a starting point to avoid building the plan right from the scratch. So we are not trying to reinvent the wheel here. If we have got some guidance available already, we'll definitely use it and we'll build upon it. Using an existing plan as a starting point also provides the benefit of leveraging existing corporate standards, cultural accepted practices, and any expected governance or management steps expected for the business analysis work. So if there is some guideline available, and based on that guideline, so that governance structure, some plans have already been developed or some templates has already been created, naturally catering all of those things, then why not use that? And if I use that, I automatically will be following the pattern the organization wants me to follow, and I can add my value into that plan and ultimately create a very useful business analysis plan. Not all information may be known at the time of the plan when the plan is developed. Therefore, business analysts may be required to make some assumptions. I hope this is very clear. We all keep doing that. This is a normal phenomena that we do plan things, but at the same time, some of the facts are not available at that point in time, and therefore we take assumptions. The business analyst includes any assumptions made in the business analyst plan document. Making process decision upfront in the planning phase reduces the risk of being held up debating process during the execution phase. We do not want to be held up just because certain data is not available. So let's take an assumption, record that assumption and move on with our plan. Later on, if that assumption does not prove to be true, then we can always change it and we can amend the plan. So making process decisions upfront in the planning phase reduces the risk of being held up debating process during the execution phase. So good planning will keep you going even in execution. In some situations, planning in the execution phase may be preferable to planning everything upfront to avoid reaching premature decisions based on incomplete information. Actually, it is describing the same very concept, and we used to call it the progressive elaboration. Naturally, if the requirement of this work is very well defined beforehand, then naturally I can plan everything beforehand. But if the facts are not available, if I have to take a lot many assumptions, if there are lot many uncertainties, if I understand that over the period of time I learn more facts and I will be able to refine my plan, then definitely I cannot do all the planning upfront. And therefore, it would be preferable that I should wait for execution to refine my plan. I'm not saying that do not plan in the planning when the business analyst plan has to be developed. Yes, we will develop a business analyst plan based on assumption, might be incomplete, but later on through progressive elaboration, when the data becomes available, we will keep populating it and keep enriching it. In some cases, it may not be possible or desired to plan the entire approach upfront. That is exactly what I have explained. Rolling wave planning may be used. What is rolling wave planning? Rolling wave planning is a tactical concept describing progressive elaboration. Progressive elaboration is a strategic level concept when we talk about the whole broad work. When you are talking about the details, inner details of the work, like the activities and all that, and they are being refined over the period of time, this is called rolling wave planning, which involves planning from a higher level first and more detailed level later, or in the project when the activities are ready to be performed. So I may not know how to perform a certain activity until and unless I am very close to performing it. So those facts are going to be available to me at that point in time. And approach decision with the sponsor, project manager, and key stakeholders as more details are known. The business analyst needs to balance the advantages provided by upfront planning against any disadvantages when considering how much upfront planning to perform. So here we learn one thing, that we have to decide how much upfront planning you want to do and how much planning you want to leave out for execution phase where new facts will become available. Naturally, as I said before, it all depends upon the scope of the work. If the scope of the work is very clear, you are absolutely knowing everything, you can plan everything upfront. But if it is partially known and you cannot go into those that much of detail, then you decide how much you want to plan upfront and how much you want to leave for further planning or for rolling planning in the future. So if you are clear about this, then you can be very comfortable in your plan. The collaboration point here is the business analyst should build the business analysis plan collaboratively with the stakeholders to attain the buy-in. This is exactly what we talked about. We said involve your team members and your stakeholders when you are creating this business analysis plan. And this is why, because we want to attain their buy-in. A plan that is constructed by the team provides a sense of ownership to those involved and sets expectations by bringing awareness to how the work will be performed. If people who have to work on the project, they have been together with you during the planning, they would know each and every step how the plan is going to be unveiled, and they would be confident about it, aware about it, and they would not have any stupid questions later, and they will be confident that this is something we created and we can do it. So this is how business analysts can relate with other stakeholders through getting them involved and getting their buy-in. Okay, let us take one item one by one. First of all, let us see a comparison between the business analysis plan and requirement management plan. Rather, going into this detail, I would like to ask you, how do you think you can differentiate between the business analysis plan and the requirement management plan? Jayadil, what is your definition? How do you differentiate between business analysis plan and requirement management
plan? Basically, business analysis plan and the requirement management plan.
Just talk about the requirement management plan.
Okay, requirement management plan, it's been very clear that all the how we are going, it's a strategy of how we are going to gather the requirements. It's a plan according to it, and all the requirements are registered in traceability metrics, requirement traceability metrics. So that along with the all stakeholders, all the requirements are registered. So what each person or each stakeholder want to do. So this is how we make the plan and then move forward.
Okay. All right. You are very right in saying that, but you see, the requirement management plan you talked about, that is part of the project management discipline. So you develop the requirement management plan as a component of the project management plan. And what did it describe? It describes how the overall requirements of the project will be elicited, that is collected, analyzed, documented, and managed across the project. The requirement management plan covers planning decisions for both the product and the project requirements. So it is responsible for recording all the product requirements and all the project requirements. And one of the reasons why we are creating this requirement management plan is because the people we are collecting these information from, these requirements from, those people can change their mind anytime. And when they do, we have to keep a configuration record of what has been changed, when, and by whom. And what does it affect the project? How does it affect the project? In business analysis discipline, the terms requirement management plan referred to a document that contained planning decisions about how requirements were to be stored and maintained, as well as decisions about baselining, updating, and change impact analysis from this perspective of the business analysis, we have to set the overall picture of requirement management plan, how we want the data to be stored. Now, the project will come later. When the project comes, how and where the data is to be stored, what are the criteria for establishing the baselines, when and how they will be updated, how they can be, change impact analysis can be carried out, and so on. So this term has evolved in some organizations to also encompass planning decisions for the business analysis process. Like I said, how the requirements will be elicited, how they will be analyzed, how they will be documented, how they will be managed across the project. So the big story is created in the business analysis plan. And the detail is in project management when you collect the requirement management plan. Because business analysis is focused on product requirements. Business analysis is not about the life of the project. Business analysis is more focused on what is to be created, the product requirements. The specifying the project requirements is classically the job of the project requirement management plan. So the linkage between the business analysis and the project management is product requirement and project requirement. The product requirement are the primary focus of business analysis. This practice guide will use the term business analysis plan to refer to all information that is documented regarding business analysis planning decisions. So I hope the difference between the business analysis plan and requirement management plan has clearly outlined the collaboration point between the business analysis analyst and the project manager. Business analyst is looking after the requirement. Which requirement? Product requirement. He is more focused towards the product requirement, whereas a project manager is also looks at the product requirement, but he is more focused on the project requirement, meaning the work of the project. So business analysis plan works in conjunction with requirement management plan. They have to work together because they have a commonality of product requirement. Business analyst should work closely with the project manager to ensure content is not duplicated. Both are creating the requirement management. So, the product requirements, so they have to tally their notes between the documents, and that the planning decision for both the project requirements and product requirements are covered. It is completely covered. So when project manager is deciding on the project requirement, he should collaborate with the business analyst to see and to ensure that all product requirements have been catered, and these project requirements which he has outlined are really necessary. So business analyst will help him make a decision on that. Next point is what to include in the business analysis plan. The business analysis plan is focused on the scope of business analysis effort. What is to be done during business analysis? This plan will cover all that. This includes a list of all the activities to be conducted and the business analysis deliverables to be produced. So just consider the process of business analysis as a project. Like a project, we will decide what all we have to analyze. So the result, the product we are looking for is the analysis. What we have to deliver and how we have to deliver. So this includes a list of all those activities which have to be conducted, a list of the roles required to successfully conduct the business analysis process is also included in the business analysis plan. Who are the key process decision makers? Key process decisions could be, for example, the approach for prioritizing, how to document, how to validate, how to communicate, how to approve, how to change the requirements. All planning decisions should be documented in a straightforward and clear manner so that stakeholders know what to expect when project business analysis activities begin. Where team members disagree with one or more of the decision being made, the business analyst assumes responsibility for negotiating and bringing the team to consensus. Once decisions are made, these should be documented so conflicts do not resurface later when the business analysis work is being performed. So when we are outlining this plan, we must mutually agree. We all people, or the stakeholders and the team members should be mutually agreeing on the approach, and if there is a conflict, that is the responsibility of the business analyst to ensure that there is no conflict remaining. All conflicts must be resolved. The business analysis plan should be written in a manner that will be easily understood. Just keep it simple because it will be reviewed and may need to be approved by key stakeholders. When developing the business analysis plan, it is a good practice to provide explanation for the planning choices made. how and why. For example, the project using an adaptive life cycle, the depth and cadence of the analysis activities, like, we don't want paralysis through analysis. So the depth and cadence of analysis activities to be decided here much differently than for projects using a waterfall approach. So we are not following exactly the same approach that we will be using in project. Project may be waterfall, but here we can even go for an agile approach. The prioritization process, type of techniques, deliverables will vary. Explaining why planning choices were selected provides context for those who review the plan and provide the rationale for the decisions made. Generally, decisions that are reflected in the business analysis plan and are influenced by the selected project lifecycle include type of elicitation activities to be conducted. So whatever type of project lifecycle is there, naturally the elicitation of activities, elicitation means collection of data, collection of information or requirements. Elicitation activities, what are the collection activities? These we have to decide what type of elicitation activities have to be conducted. Like, you see, if there is a large audience and we have to do it in the very beginning of the project, maybe we have to resort to a questionnaire, or we have to, if there is a small audience and specialized audience, we may have to interview each and every person. So this all has to be decided according to the project life cycle. Requirement analysis model, whatever we are using, that also will impact us. How requirements will be documented and communicated to the stakeholder, including the use of any specialized tool. Maybe one of our stakeholders says that he will only require information on online, on cloud-based. So if that is the requirement, then this specialized need has to be addressed. Yes, please.
Right. So what I understand, as we have got project management plan in PMP, so we are having business analysis plan in same fashion.
Exactly, exactly. You are very right. And business analysis plan is more oriented towards the product. It does not
Okay.
specifically address how we will do it. It just talks about more. Rather, it focuses more about the product requirements. It can give you an approach how to do the project. It can suggest what the project lifecycle should be, but it all will be finalized in the project management, where project manager will decide exactly what the project lifecycle is and what are exactly the project requirement. Actually, it will reanalyze the product requirement, but exactly what are the project requirement. So project requirement or detail of work is only included in project management.
All right. All right.
Then is the business analysis deliverables to be produced. What do you want business analysis to deliver? Maybe the formats, maybe the requirement, the tests, something else. So whatever you expect coming out of the business analysis exercise, it is the deliverable of the business analysis. Roles and responsibilities for those participating in the requirement activities. So if the execution of business analysis would be collecting the requirements, right? So you will plan how will we collect the requirement, and the roles and responsibilities, who will collect what requirement and how. Then how requirements will be prioritized, approved and maintained. Once those requirements have been collected, how you order them, what is the mechanism of the process of approval, and how they will be maintained in a database or in a filing system. List of requirement states that will be tracked and managed in the project. The level of importance and how the tracking of those requirements will be done. Naturally, as you said, traceability metrics will be developed. How requirements will be validated and verified. So how do you do that? In project management, how do you validate and verify the requirements?
We used to do it in monitoring and controlling process, and we validate and as per the scope of work which has been earlier agreed or FSD.
Mm-hmm. And what is the exact name of the process which validates the requirements?
which validates the requirement. So it's basically verify scope in monitoring and controlling. We used to do it in knowledge area of scope.
Okay, very good. But the name of verify scope has changed, right? You read your fifth edition and you will find it is now validate scope, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
the process has also changed. Verification and validation, when a deliverable comes out of execution, it goes directly to quality control. The
Okay.
deliverable is checked for quality and gets verified. After having
Okay.
been verified, then the deliverable goes to validate scope process, and there the user acceptance is carried out, and ultimately the validated deliverable or accepted deliverable comes out of it. So this is slightly
Okay.
changed from the fifth edition.
Okay, sir. Okay.
How the acceptance criteria will be determined for the requirements and solution validation. This acceptance criteria is the user acceptance which will be used in scope validation process. Now, in business analysis, define the acceptance criteria, determine the acceptance criteria for the requirements and solution validation. So this is all you decisions you are going to be making here. Then is the determining the proper level of detail. Why are we determining the proper level of detail? It means we want to ascertain how deep in analysis we need to go. What is the level of depth we want to explore? That should be appropriate. We should not go so deep that we come into the category of paralysis through analysis, and we should not go so less deep that we do not catch the whole requirement. So the right depth is to be found. Business analysts should ensure that a sufficient level of planning occurs in order to minimize the risk of developing poor estimates. If you do not go to enough depth, your estimates will be hasty, they will be poor, misguiding stakeholders regarding the amount of the required commitment, and miscommunicating the important decisions regarding requirement sign-off, prioritization, and change management. Business analysts should avoid being too prescriptive. Too prescriptive means going deeper than required, paralysis through analysis, and try to find a balance in the amount of planning performed. So it should be right, you see, you are making a dish. It should be rightly cooked, appropriately cooked, not overcooked, not undercooked. Similarly, you have to go to the appropriate depth, not more, not less. When rolling wave planning is used, consider the planning horizon and provide planning details only for the activities that are on the short-term horizon. So you define what is to be done in short term and what is to be done in long term. First, only address the short-term items. We can talk about the long-term items later. Balancing between the flexibility and management, type of information commonly contained in a business analysis plan varies because each organization develops the template a bit differently depending upon organizational needs. When developing a business analysis plan, the business analyst should not attempt to document every aspect of business analysis approach, as that tactic is time consuming and ineffective. So you have to see, again, if you are writing down whatever everybody is saying down to the word, that will consume a lot of time. There is a meeting going on and somebody has given a long point and you say, sir, please repeat yourself, I'm writing, and you're slowly writing and doing all that. So that will break the flow of the discussion. You just write the, crux of the discussion rather than dictating everything. So we do not want to waste time in that. You have to be highly flexible and you have to manage the resources howsoever. Do not sacrifice good management practices for flexibility. Now, do not do everything in shorthand and miss out important details. So this has given you the two views. One is in favor of flexibility and other is in favor of good management. Don't sacrifice flexibility for management. Don't sacrifice good management for flexibility. So again, it is trying to say adopt a middle way, appropriate way. Business analysis plan is intended to provide enough guidance to ensure quality in the business analysis process and is not intended to constrain or remove flexibility when an adaptive approach is needed to perform effectively. The plan should focus on documenting the key decisions about how the business analysis process will be performed and should not try to plan out each and every step of the process. So this defines the proper level of detail. Actually, the same point which we have discussed earlier, it has given a light to that. We want to create a balance between flexibility and management. Then understand the project context, the project you are going to undertake as a result of this business analysis. What would be the boundary, the context of that project? There is no single approach to the business analysis effort that works best for every project. So that means that for project to project, I may change my approach of our business analysis because all projects are unique. It is essential to understand the characteristics of a project and the context in which it is being conducted in order to define an appropriate approach. A project that is highly complex because it involves several interfaces or impacts a large number of business units require a different approach to business analysis work compared to a project that is similar in size and less complex. So the same thing, it is reiterating that project to project there might be a need for a different business analysis approach. So you have to select the most appropriate one. The business analysis conducts some initial analysis including a review of the business case, project goals and objectives in order to obtain the necessary context required to start defining the approach. So we look around, we look at the general project objectives, goals and all those things, which will give us a fairly good picture as if what the context of the project is. Before planning decisions are made, the business analyst analyzes the characteristics of the project in order to determine the approach. So approach is determined, the business analysis approach is determined based on that information. And that could include what is the size of the project, how much complex this project is, what is the type of this project, what is the level of risk in this project, how risky is it, what is the risk tolerance available within this project, geographic distribution of stakeholders, aggressiveness of project timeline. Is it too much, schedule oriented, selected project life cycle, imposed constraints are any regulations, market conditions or competitive landscape and technology trends. All of these things, if known, would tell me a very good pretext or context for the project. Other things we need to see are the level of detail and formality required for deliverables, time to market requirements, and experience level of business analysts assigned to the project. There may be mandatory organizational standards that impose prescribed methods for conducting the work or require business analysts to follow a defined process for defining, tracing, improving, and managing requirements. So from organizational side, there might be some standard imposed on you that you must follow this. For business analysis, we have adopted this standard. So you must do everything according to that. If that is the order, then we have to go by that. An organization may also influence the approach by requiring the use of standardized requirement templates. So the organization may have its own templates already prepared, and that can also be mandated. The business analyst needs to consider all of these factors when planning how to perform the business analysis work for the project. Next is understand how the project life cycle influences the planning decisions. A project life cycle is a series of phases. I hope you understand this already. Project life cycle is a series of phases that a project passes through from its initiation to its closure. The life cycle provides the structure for managing the project and is determined by factors such as managerial preferences, project characteristics, or how the organization desires to maintain and control the project. So this the number of the type of life cycle, number of phases, names of phases, it all depends upon these three factors: the managerial preferences, project characteristics, and desire to maintain and control the project. A number of processes and planning decisions are dependent on the chosen project life cycle. Once you have chosen a life cycle, you have to take precedence from there for selection of processes and the decisions. The business analyst should tailor process decisions in accordance with the project life cycle selected. Project life cycle models range from predictive to adaptive. Predictive is, as we have already discussed, if everything is known beforehand, that is called predictive. These are those kinds of life cycles in which we can do uh, upfront planning for business analysis. And in adaptive, these are flexible change-driven projects, and in that we cannot do all the upfront planning. And there could be, you could form another approach, yet another approach, which is a hybrid of these two approaches that could fall anywhere between these two approaches. The following is a high-level comparison of the three main structure types: predictive, iterative or incremental, and adaptive. As far as the predictive life cycle is concerned, emphasis is on minimizing the uncertainty. So we know almost everything. There is very less uncertainty in predictive life cycle projects. Scope is entirely defined upfront. Time and cost estimates are determined for the entire project when scope is defined. Business analysis is conducted mostly upfront. Requirements are completed before product development begins. So this is very very clear. Requirements are already known. Deliverables are determined and at the onset of the project. Changes to scope are carefully managed. Business value is delivered through one implementation. The need and solution are known and do not change throughout the project. So if your need is static or the solution you want to create or develop out of it is not going to change, it will going to remain the same. We are then dealing with a predictive life cycle. This method, predictive life cycle methods, are also preferred to a plan-driven, traditional, or waterfall model. So this is for these kind of models. An iterative and incremental life cycle project is split into phases, and project phases are intentionally repeated, like a spiral model. Have you heard about a spiral model?
Yes, sir. So this is the same like waterfall model as well, iterative one is?
Yes.
Is it the same as of a waterfall model? I'm talking about the iterative and incremental.
No. In waterfall model, all of your planning is done upfront beforehand.
Yes.
In iterative, you plan for every phase. You plan one phase,
Okay.
then you plan the next phase,
Like
and
progressive elaboration as you have communicated me earlier.
phase to phase.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So phase to phase, and secondly, in iterative life cycle, we may plan in such a way in an incremental fashion that, like in spiral model, as I was giving you the example, we say that we have to, uh, construct a spaceship. So let us make a small model of the spaceship. When the small model is made and we have tested it properly, then we say let us make it a bigger model, and then more bigger, then let us make a spaceship on ground and then try to operate it on ground, then let us get it out of the gravity. So we repeat the same process over the period of time, and every time refining it to the next level, and ultimately we will have the spaceship. So project is split into phases, uh, and project phases are intentionally repeated. Project work is performed sequentially or with some overlap in iterations. High-level scope is defined upfront and the detailed scope is elaborated upon each iteration. So high-level scope is only the broad scope is defined in the beginning and the details are to be done later when you design each life cycle, each phase. Scope for future phases is defined when the prior phase starts or completes. So we define a phase only when the previous phase is about to complete or has started. Business analysis is performed upfront and then in small amounts throughout the project. Requirements analysis is performed in time-boxed iterations. The need and solution become more stable as the project progresses. As we move ahead with the project, we are 75 through with the project, 75% through with the project is that much stable. And in an adaptive life cycle, which we call the agile, business value is emphasized over minimizing uncertainty. Time and cost estimates are fixed for each iteration. Iterations are conducted quickly. Overall scope is agreed to too early. Detailed scope and project requirements are defined for a single iteration at a time. Changes are expected. When new requirements are presented, these are captured in a product backlog and then the backlog is prioritized. Business value is delivered iteratively. Business value is constant. Need and solution are unknown and unstable. Adaptive lifecycle methods are also preferred to as change-driven or agile methods.
So can you please explain me what is the difference between iterative and adaptive? I'm pretty confused in adaptive.
In agile, we have very small phases, and the size of each phase or iteration is very limited and equal. If I say my iteration
Almost.
size will be 2 weeks, that will be 2 weeks throughout, and the work will be adjusted according to the time, not the time adjusted to the phase. In iterative,
Okay.
each iteration or each phase could be different in size. Each phase may have its own deliverable, and to achieve that deliverable, you might have to estimate your own time in that. The only difference from waterfall is that in this we have to plan only one phase at a time.
So
When
this phase is called as a sprint.
this is not sprint, we don't call it sprint.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
adaptive is like that.
Okay, sir. Sir, can you please explain adaptive? I'm clear with the iterative thing.
Adaptive is agile. Adaptive is agile. We talked about agile before,
Okay.
isn't it?
Not much, sir.
Where high level of flexibility is required, and we want a high level of, okay, let us take the example of a iterative or traditional project. When can you exercise control to change? If customer changes his mind, let's take example of a traditional project like the predictive model. We were assured that the design will not change. Customer signed a contract with us that this is the design, you build this and I'll pay you. Now customer has changed his mind. In a predictive cycle, what will you do?
So I will move to immediately towards the iterative thing. I will do the progressive elaboration according to each phase.
When you are doing a predictive project, it cannot be moved to agile immediately. Either you have to select that kind of life cycle. You must know before starting this project that the scope is clear or not. If the scope was very clear, then you have to go predictive. This is fully plan driven. You can't convert a fully plan driven project suddenly into a change driven project. So it is very difficult because the whole project is one big capsule and somebody is asking me to change in one thing in the whole capsule. But capsule is enclosed. I can't see inside. Only when the result of this capsule will come, when this project will complete, I would be able to understand what was to change. I can't make changes if the project is one big phase, because only when I have completed that work can I think about changing it. As far as the iterative thing is concerned, these are small capsules, one after the other. If our customer wants to bring any change, maybe in the middle of the project, then probably I'll see, okay, that middle is somewhere after 2 phases. So if it is after 2 phases, at least the 2 phases will be safe, and any effect which the change is bringing will be on all the phases after second phase. You see, 2 phases are safe. Okay, when this change comes, we are actually doing the third phase, right? Okay, but the third phase will not be impacted because that is ongoing. We can't up thing which is ongoing. So third phase is about to complete. When it completes, then we entertain the change and we see what all has to change will be affected on the fourth and fifth phase, not on the third phase. If this phase is say 6 months long, then again we are not being very flexible. Any request from stakeholder will at least have to wait for 6 months after which we will be able to tell him we can do it or not. So in Agile, what happens is that we are not making that big a phase, a 6 month or 3 month phase. We have, number one, we are shortening the size of the phases, and number two, we have stopped depending upon the product, and we have started depending on the time. We say, okay, now we will fix the time for every sprint, and the time for every sprint will be say 2 weeks. So whatever we can do in 2 weeks, we'll do it and then report. Then we'll start the next 2 weeks. Whatever we can do, we'll do it and then report. And so if there is a change at any time, we are only within first 2 weeks. Rest of the whole project is free to be changed. Change anything you want in the project. I am not bothered. I am just asking you that I am doing my first iteration, my first phase. Please do not bother me in this work of 15 days. You change everything else after 15 days, I will be still okay with it.
All right. So if we start working for the 15 days of work, there is no change in it. Then the next 15 days there is a change which is going to impact the first phase of mine.
No, it cannot.
So how we are going to accommodate?
First phase cannot ever be impacted again, because first phase we will get approved from the customer, right?
Okay.
The phase which has
Okay. So
completed,
it's a deliverable. It's a
you can't.
sorry to cut you short, but what I'm saying is, so that phase is deliverable. It's a deliverable. So whatever been built up is going to be delivered to the customer,
Yes,
sign
yes,
off,
yes.
receive, and then we are working on the next phase.
Yeah, that is the advantage of Agile. In Agile, we make so small iterations or phases that after the end of every phase, we deliver whatever we have produced. So we have nothing more to do. Now we enter into the next phase and we ask whatever can be done in this. So we will commit with the stakeholder that at the end of this phase, we will deliver you this thing. He says, I need to change anything. I say, okay, this phase has already started, so you can't change anything. You have already agreed on it for 2 weeks iteration. You can't change anything in it. But whatever you want to change in the future of the project, you are most welcome. So I will deliver that thing which we have already agreed. But because we have sealed only 2 weeks, so stakeholder is very comfortable. He is only stopped from giving his suggestion for only 2 weeks. Got it?
Yes, sir. Because I'm with you.
Okay. Project lifecycle impacts a number of decisions about the project analysis process, such as business analysis activities that are to be performed. Whatever kind of project lifecycle you intend using, that will also impact what kind of business analysis activities you have to do. Order in which these activities can be completed, timing of the activities, deliverables of the activities, level of formality required for deliverables, approach for prioritizing requirement, and methods for addressing requirement changes. Then you ensure the team is trained on the project. You have selected the life cycle, you have adjusted to that project life cycle, whatever it is. Now your team has to be trained on working on it. Maybe you have decided to work on an agile life cycle and your people do not know what an agile life cycle is, and therefore they need some training and understanding, and they should be good enough before starting their job on this project. Project team and key stakeholders may require training if they have not worked previously with a selected project lifecycle. The business analyst should be aware of the experience levels of the stakeholders and identify areas where coaching or training may be needed to be provided to assist stakeholder through the requirement activities. Because templates and business analysis deliverables vary based on the project lifecycle, time should be provided to update stakeholders who have the responsibility for reviewing, prioritizing, and validating requirements. In addition, the business analyst lead who manages a team of business analysts should ensure the business analysts have the necessary skills to use the techniques and tools selected for the work. Collaboration point here is business analysts are responsible for stakeholder engagement in the business analysis process, and the project manager is responsible for stakeholder engagement across the project. So engagement of stakeholder in business analysis processes or activities is the responsibility of business analysis, and engagement of the stakeholder in project is the responsibility of project management. This is an opportunity for the roles of work together to determine the readiness and willingness of key stakeholders to participate in project activities.
Right. So can we hold our session today over here because I have some commitment. I have to take my family somewhere. So
Okay.
is it possible and convenient for you to hold the session over here
Yeah,
today?
yeah, yeah, of course, of course. We can close it down here and we can meet tomorrow again. So
Inshallah.
I think we should call it a day. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you for your assistance and guidance.